deeply into the mirror. Who is looking back at you? Society tells you it is a flawed human being. Religions tell you it is a sinner, an entity born in debt, separated from the divine, begging for salvation. But what if the greatest secret in human history is that the face staring back at you is the face of the ultimate creator? If you want to see what God looks like, you simply have to look in the mirror. You are looking him straight in the face. For millennia, humanity has been trapped in a cycle of fear, limitation, and a desperate search for answers outside of itself. We look to the sky, to religious institutions, to ancient texts, and to gurus, begging for a God to save us. But what if everything you have ever been taught about God, heaven, hell, karma, and your own identity is completely backwards? Today we are diving into one of the most profound, paradigm-shifting, and controversial esoteric teachings of the modern era. The White Book, featuring the teachings of an entity known as Ramtha. Channeled exclusively through an American woman named J.Z. Knight, Ramtha claims to be an ancient being who conquered the physical world and ascended into a state of pure light over 35,000 years ago. Through these teachings, he brings a singular, staggering message. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are not a physical body. You are an immortal, sovereign creator. You are literally God. To understand this, we must first understand the origins of the teacher. According to the text, Ramtha lived 35,000 years ago as a Lemurian in the slums of a late Atlantean society. He was a man who knew profound suffering, watching his mother and sister die from starvation and disease, oppressed by an intellectually arrogant empire. Consumed by hatred, he became a fearsome barbarian warrior, leading a massive army to conquer 3/4 of the known world, driven by a desire to exact vengeance on the tyrants of Atlantis. But Ramtha's greatest victory was not on the battlefield. It was his conquest of himself. After being brutally impaled by a sword and left to heal, he spent years observing the natural world, the sun, the moon, the wind, and the birds. He realized that the unknown God of his ancestors was not a deity hiding behind the clouds, nor a judgmental being created by the twisted minds of men. He discovered that the unknown God was the very life force pulsing through everything. The evening sky, the scent of jasmine, the river, and the wind. Fascinated by the wind, its absolute freedom, its immortality, its boundless power, he decided he wanted to become it. Through years of relentless focus and absolute determination, he learned to raise the vibratory frequency of his physical body, transforming matter into pure light, and eventually ascended, taking his physical body with him into eternity. Now he returns not to be worshipped, but to teach humanity the very science of ascension and self-realization. He returns to remind you of what you have forgotten, your inherent divinity. If you are God, then what are the religious institutions teaching? Ramtha's teachings completely dismantle the traditional dogmas that have ruled human civilization. He states unequivocally that a judging, punishing, wrathful God has never existed anywhere except in the hearts and minds of men. The God that humiliates some and elevates others is a human invention, created to control the masses. Think about it. If God is the entirety of life, the supreme intelligence of all that is, why would he judge himself? If God possessed an ego that could divide existence into good and bad, perfection and imperfection, he would instantly cease to be the unified essence of life. God is entirely devoid of good and evil. God is not positive or negative. God is simply isness, a continuous, unconditional force of life that allows you to create whatever illusions of perfection or imperfection you desire. Because organized religions sought to dominate nations where armies failed, they weaponized fear. They stripped humans of their internal divine power and projected God as a distant, terrifying authority figure. And what about hell? The devil? Ramtha reveals that hell is a complete fabrication. Historically, the word hell referred to a shallow, open grave in Judea, where the poor were buried, often scavenged by wild dogs and hyenas. Over centuries, priests and religious texts twisted this literal place into a metaphorical dimension of eternal torment to keep their congregations obedient. Ramtha states, "I looked into the depths of your world, and I found a lake of burning fire, but hell was not there. I searched to the edges of your universe. When I returned, I found it in the hearts of those who believe in its existence. God is everything. Every grain of sand, every butterfly, every star. God is love. If God created a place of eternal torment, it would be a cancer within his own body that would destroy him. Even the concept of karma, widely accepted in Eastern philosophies and New Age circles, is challenged. Ramtha states that karma is not a divine law. It is a self-imposed trap. The only laws that exist are the ones you allow to have power over you. If you believe that you must return to Earth to pay for past mistakes, you give that belief power, and it becomes your reality, forcing you to reincarnate endlessly to balance debts that God never asked you to pay. In the true easiness of God, there is no judgment, only experience. But what about the great saviors of history? What about Jesus? According to Ramtha, Jeshua ben Joseph, known to us as Jesus of Nazareth, was indeed a magnificent God. However, he was not the only Son of God. He was a man who realized his own divinity, just as you are meant to do. Jeshua lived in an era where humanity was enslaved by cruelty and lacked love. He brought the supreme gift of love to this plane, but he openly taught that the Father lived within everyone. Jeshua liberated himself from human illusions and fully expressed the God within, thus becoming Christ. The word Christ simply means the God-man, a human fully expressing God, and God fully expressing through a human. Anyone who realizes they are God and lives that truth is Christ. The tragedy of history is that his message was distorted. Jeshua never claimed to be your personal savior. He became his own savior by understanding his divine source, and he taught others to do the same, famously stating that the kingdom of heaven is within you. To comprehend your divinity, you must understand the true genesis of the universe. This is not the story of a man in the sky building the earth with his hands. In the beginning, there was no form. There was only an infinite, silent void of thought, the ultimate supreme intelligence, the Father. God was this vast, formless space of thought, and God would have remained formless forever if he had not done one thing. He contemplated himself. When the infinite thought turned inward and contemplated its own existence, the sheer act of contemplation caused the thought to expand. The void folded in on itself in an act of profound self-love and expanded into a magnificent, radiant light. You were born in that exact moment. Every single one of you was a direct creation of that first contemplative thought. You were born as individual sparks of light, gods created from God, an extension of the divine mind given the ultimate gift, free will. God the Father gave you this free will so that you could take his infinite substance, thought, and creatively expand it into new forms, ensuring that the universe would continue to evolve for eternity. As beings of light, you possessed staggering intelligence. You were the architects of the cosmos. You took the high-frequency energy of light and lowered its vibration, condensing it into electromagnetism, and then condensing it even further into dense matter. You created the suns, the planets, the stars. Millions of years ago, you came to this emerald planet called Earth. You designed the flora and fauna, shaping living organisms out of gases and water. But as beings of pure light, you couldn't physically interact with your creations. You could flow through a tree like the wind, but you could not feel its bark or smell a flower's fragrance, because your frequency was too high to interact with dense matter. So, to experience the physical paradise you had created, you designed a vehicle, the human body. You engineered this magnificent biological machine to house your soul and be surrounded by the Spirit of God. It was designed with a program that allowed you to continually upgrade, enabling you to live and coexist in a challenging and dangerous environment. Every thought you embraced emotionally was recorded in every cell, so that the memory of your experiences could be passed on through each successive incarnation. Through this body, you could finally touch a flower, inhale its essence, and preserve forever within the soul the emotion born from that experience. You could look at a tree, truly see it, delight in its scent and marvel at its beauty. Through the human form, you could see one another, touch, embrace, and communicate. You could nourish yourselves, observe one another, and engage with each other in ways that were unpredictable and alive. By entering matter in this way, you opened before yourselves an entirely new adventure, a reality in which thought transformed into form, and the invisible essence called emotion could finally be experienced. You became the God-man and the God-woman, pure divine consciousness operating within a cellular mass. But a tragic shift occurred. Over millions of years of reincarnating into physical bodies, the gods fell in love with the physical realm. To survive in a harsh environment filled with predators, which you also created, the human body was programmed with primal survival instincts, caution, fear, and the drive to protect itself. As the eternal gods immersed themselves deeper into physical existence, they began to identify solely with the body. You forgot that you were the immortal creator inside the machine. As you identified with flesh, you became subject to the fears of the flesh. The limitless power of your thought became restricted by the fear of death, scarcity, and judgment. This limitation caused the physical body to degrade, age, and die. When your body died, you realized you were still alive in a realm of light, but because your consciousness was still obsessed with the physical world and trapped in altered, limited beliefs, you eagerly returned to a new body. Thus began the endless cycle of reincarnation. You have lived thousands of lives on this plane. You have been kings and beggars, conquerors and slaves, men and women of every race and religion. You have played every role in the theater of life. Over centuries, religious and societal programming deepened your amnesia, teaching you that you were born flawed, sinful, and separate from God. You surrendered your sovereign power to priests, politicians, and societal norms. Today, you call yourself a human being and view yourself as a victim of fate, luck, or an angry deity. But beneath the mask of your humanity, hiding behind your eyes, is the supreme creator of universes. How exactly do you, as God, create your reality right now? Ramtha explains this through the profound spiritual biology of the human body. Everything in your life is materialized through your thoughts. You are not a victim of accidents or coincidences. Every circumstance has been imagined and brought to life by your own feelings and beliefs. Here is the mechanics of how reality is forged. Your physical body is surrounded by a brilliant electromagnetic light field called the aura, which is the spirit of your being. This spirit is directly connected to the river of thought or the mind of God. In every second of your existence, thoughts from the infinite consciousness pass through your aura. However, your brain is merely a receiver, much like a radio. You only receive the thoughts that match the frequency of your current mindset. Because humanity is trapped in social consciousness, a dense, slow, fear-based frequency focused on survival, money, aging, and what others think, your brain only allows these limited thoughts to enter. When a thought enters your brain, it is converted into a high-voltage electrical current. This current is amplified by the pineal gland, the sixth seal, and sent down your central nervous system to every single cell in your body. As this electrical thought hits your cells, it produces a physical sensation called emotion. Your soul, which resides near your heart, acts as a cosmic recording device. The soul doesn't record words or pictures, it records emotions. Once an emotion is recorded in the soul, it creates a magnetic expectation in your aura. This magnetic field then literally draws circumstances, people, and events into your life that will recreate that exact same emotion. If you dwell on thoughts of lack, your body feels the emotion of poverty. Your soul records it, and you magnetize financial struggle. If you constantly think about sickness and aging, your cells receive those low-frequency electrical instructions, and your body begins to die. But if you can accept the unlimited thought that you are God, that you are worthy, that you are infinite joy, that thought will send a brilliant, high-frequency electrical spark through your nervous system. Your body will feel absolute ecstasy and unbridled power. Your soul will record this divine emotion, and your aura will instantly magnetize miracles, healing, and limitless abundance into your life. The only thing stopping you from absolute mastery is your alter ego, the analytical, survival-driven part of your brain that rejects any thought that doesn't fit into the safe, boring box of society. The alter ego is what ancient texts metaphorically called the Antichrist, because it denies the God within you. The Battle of Armageddon is not a future physical war. It is the internal struggle happening right now in your mind between the limited alter ego and the awakening Christ consciousness within. Most human beings use only 1/3 of their brain. The rest lies dormant, waiting for you to entertain thoughts outside the boundaries of normal human logic. When you declare, "I am God," and allow unlimited thoughts to enter, your pituitary gland, the seventh seal, begins to bloom like a magnificent flower. It releases hormones that awaken the sleeping parts of your brain. If you were to use your entire brain, you could instantly heal any disease, regrow limbs, or change your body into pure light to live forever. Ramtha states that physical death is merely an illusion, an accepted societal program. Your body was originally designed by the gods to live for hundreds of thousands of years, maintained by the endocrine system. It only dies because you expect it to die, because you stop producing the hormones of life and activate the death hormone out of guilt, self-judgment, and societal programming. If you eliminate the word old age from your vocabulary and replace it with eternity, if you stop celebrating birthdays that merely count your degradation, You can reverse aging. You can command your soul to restore the enzymes of youth to your body simply by changing your attitude. Ascension, the act of raising your body's frequency so high that it becomes invisible light, bypassing death completely, is your ultimate destiny, just as it was Ramtha's. So, if you are an immortal god, what is the purpose of this physical life? People desperately seek a grand mission. They consult psychics, astrologers, and religious texts, hoping to find their destiny. Ramtha's answer is radically simple, yet completely disruptive to the ego. Your purpose is simply to live. You didn't come here to save the world. You didn't come here to pay off karmic debts from past lives. You came here to experience the emotions of the physical realm, to turn the unknown into the known, and to gather the pearls of wisdom that only come through experience. Everything you have ever done in this life and in your past lives, whether society deemed it saintly or horrific, was done simply to gain understanding. There is no failure in the mind of God. Every mistake, every tear, every moment of despair was a step towards self-realization. The experiences you judge as bad provided the friction necessary to create profound wisdom in your soul. Therefore, you must stop drowning in guilt. Guilt is the chain that binds you to the cycle of reincarnation. Forgiveness of yourself is the ultimate divine act. When you forgive yourself, you sever the illusion of karma. Karma only exists if you believe you must be punished. In the truth of God, there are no ledgers, no judges, and no executioners. The highest state of being in the entire universe is joy. Joy is the complete freedom of expression without judgment. When you are in a state of absolute joy, you are in perfect alignment with the frequency of God. In joy, it is impossible to hate, impossible to wage war, impossible to feel lack. The path to enlightenment is not found by retreating to a cave, starving yourself, or engaging in endless, rigid rituals. You become enlightened by diving into life, by passionately doing what brings you happiness, and by fiercely, uncompromisingly loving yourself. When you love who you are, completely and without condition, you love God. You must become your own savior, your own master, your own teacher. You must listen to the quiet voice of your feelings, for your soul knows the truth. Whenever you hear a teaching that limits you, that divides humanity into good and evil, know that it comes from an altered, limited mind. True knowledge always brings absolute freedom. We are entering a new epoch. The age of the body is ending, and the age of light, the era of God, is dawning. This is a time when humanity will awaken from its collective slumber and realize that the kingdom of heaven has been inside them all along. You have been playing a game of limitation for 10.5 million years. It is time to wake up. Don't wait for a savior to descend from the clouds. Be the savior of your own mind. Stop giving your power away to dogmas, to the opinions of others, to the fear of aging, and to the illusion of time. Claim your sovereignty. Say to yourself, I know I am God, and watch as the universe bends to validate your realization. Ramtha promises us this. One morning, you will wake up in the quiet stillness before dawn. You will look out your window at the velvet sky, watching the stars fade as a spectacular array of lavender, pink, and golden light pierces the horizon. You will hear the sweet song of a bird greeting the day, and in that moment of profound, breathtaking beauty, an electric realization will surge through your entire being. You will realize that you are the sunrise. You are the singing bird. You are the golden light. You are the eternal observer who brought it all into existence. You will look at the majesty of the morning and say, "Behold God, which I am." You will never be the same again. The illusions of the world will fall away, and you will step into the infinite continuum of your own divine eternity. So go out into the world. Take off your shoes. Feel the wind. Love yourself relentlessly. And remember, whenever you contemplate love, look to the wind and know that the unknown God is simply you, waiting to be remembered. Subscribe, like, and share if you are ready to claim your divine power. Let us know in the comments, what illusion are you letting go of today?